It's 4:31. I'm going to go ahead, and Lisa's here for Paul, so I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is approval for the June 2nd minutes.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 We can jump into the 600 series. And Kim, I left my notebook at my work desk. Can you remind us where we left off at?
You're muted, Kim.
Or anybody?
We're right at the beginning. We're just getting started on these.
Are we?
Yep. We did all of the last series last time, and this is the last set.
Okay. Easy peasy. There we go. 600.
Only 94 pages to go.
Yeah.
The first two are just the...
Yeah. I'm assuming there's nothing on the first page. All right. 600.G1. All right. 601.
Those are strategic goals? Is that where we have them now? Is that something that's going to get updated periodically, that G1?
You mean for?
I think those are sitting in, Kim, help us out. Not admin guidelines, not policy, not
And
superintendent
policies,
direction.
is that where these used
And
to be?
goals.
Policies,
policy,
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had one question that I don't know if there's really an answer or not. I noticed on like the reading and math, there's 3 lines there, and writing and science and some other stuff only have 1 line. Is that because there isn't a way to look at national averages and cohort groups and things like that? I'm just wondering why there's 3 bullet points for 2 of our subjects, but not all of them. Does that make sense?
Well, I think my sense on that, Sean, would be the reading and math one. That was for the strategic plan, because some of that wording does, even though those were in ends policies, I think doesn't some of that mirror the strategic plan language around reading and math too, about the special attention to the subgroups?
I mean, like I said, I assume that's, well, I don't know.
Well, I guess it's
I
there
don't
for
know why
science.
we don't.
What was the one you said it didn't have?
Right.
It doesn't have it for writing.
Oh, right. You're
Or
probably right,
social
because
studies.
of the assessment component. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you said it was missing from science, and I didn't read close enough.
Fine arts has 2. Like it's just it's not consistent from the different ones, and I just wasn't really sure why, whether it was intentional or by necessity of like assessments or something like that.
Yeah, don't you guys think it's
So
part
I'm
of the
gonna go
data
out
we
on
can
a-
look at? Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, I'm just going to go out on a limb here, and I think this is just a good point to make right now. So typically, in most school districts, you would have, what we're working towards now, and not that Carver governance. And so you don't see superintendent directions or these end policies sit outside either a set of policies or admin guidelines. So that would be one thing. So it looks like we're trying to just bring them over into guidelines, which is fine. But then I think that these have been built out over time. My gut, and I wish Steve was on the call, is we probably started with the assessment pieces that No Child Left Behind, called for. And then it probably got expanded to recognize, well, it would be nice to mention the writing component, the social studies component, although that we don't have a statewide assessment expectation there. And then I'm guessing that the character development piece came afterwards, as well as fine arts. I think this has probably been built out and maybe started with the No Child Left Behind assessment pieces. That would just be my gut with all of this. But certainly we do not have those statewide assessments that we could pick up. Although, having stated that, with the newest version or iteration, we do have through ISASP. Diane, do we have some ability just to break out the writing scores now?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if we do, we only have that 1 year of it. And I know they're going to give us some more data next time we take ISAS. So we could look at that. Though you are kind of correct. When I came to the district, there were some different or a little adjusted descriptors there. So we tried to align those with what data was available. And because we didn't have really a lot of data for writing or for social studies, we left that pretty vague. And we are more specific on those other 3 areas.
Okay.
All right, any other questions with G1? Okay, 601.1, school calendar. Just in the second line, there's a bracket behind hours, like a closed bracket, but there's no open bracket. So we need to delete that.
Got it.
Anything
Looks
else?
good to me.
All right. 601.2, the school day. Anything there?
For the, let's see, it's a one, two, I guess it's the 4th paragraph, even though it's only 1 sentence. Is that applicable if we're doing everything by hours where it says, you know, if a school is closed for weather, part of the school day will constitute a day? That's not accurate if we're going by hours, right?
And I don't know if the 3rd paragraph, if that's alluding to days instead of hours as well.
Well,
Yeah, those need to reflect the hours component.
Do we, I don't know, I guess we probably do, but do we need to define a school day if we're not counting days at all? You know what I mean?
I mean, shouldn't.
Oddly enough, we might need to, because some of our
Contract.
contracts for employees talk in terms of school days rather than instructional hours.
But is that defined the same way as it is here? Because this is defined for students, right? It's not defined for staff.
Well, you just asked, I was just answering, I think, your general question of, do we still have to have a school day defined if we have hours? I'd have to review it a little closer.
Okay. Well, the yeah, the 3rd and 4th paragraph seems specific to if you're counting days to, you know, meet your number at the end of the year. And if we're doing hours, it's not right. I'm not sure how to fix it necessarily.
Sure.
I think we do need to take a peek at that 3rd paragraph though, because there are some things that we're allowed to count, you know, even in that 1080. So there's got that conference mention in there. So we need to be careful not to just pull it to make sure. Anyway, let's look at the hours and days. I know the DE has this outlined somewhere. We can look at this policy closer.
Okay, and look at it and recommend whatever language we need to make it mesh. Okay. Curriculum development. 602.1. Anything? Okay.
It might be nice to put a equity statement in this curriculum development component too. I don't I was trying to look through here to see if they had anything in that regard, but some kind of a equity lens or component put on that curriculum development piece could be a good thing to just root in policy, that as we approach all of those curriculum development components, that is considered. Does anybody else see it in there anywhere that I'm missing?
Not seeing it specifically, no.
I think we're gonna see these followed up by MCGF requirement, Matt, but we could
Is
even
that right
link it
next?
towards back.
There is some of that later, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. 602.8 curriculum implementation. Anything?
I mean, I think we have a process for, implementing new curriculum. And as this policy states, that when we circumvent that process, it kind of fails. We've got some experience in that area. Nope. We just lost Martina. Did we not?
I think that articulates our process. Diane, do you feel the same?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Well, I might keep us moving.
I was gonna say, you get to keep us going, Sean.
Yep. Let's see, so we'll move on to 602.3, the evaluation of curriculum. These all seem very interrelated policies. Yep, Ruthina says her internet crashed, so she'll be back.
I think this one looks okay too.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that one, or are we good?
I think we're good.
All right. Moving on down, 6024, ooh, pilot experimental innovative projects. I was kind of excited when I saw this one because I thought it would be kind of fun. I mean, it's pretty straightforward to me, so I don't know that it needs any editing, but welcome back, Ruthina.
Thank you. Sorry. I don't know. My internet is being kind of wonky.
Mine struggled on me earlier today, so hopefully
Yeah.
I'll make it through this meeting.
Okay. But yeah, I'm fine with 6024. Anybody else has anything?
I would just check to make sure it calls out, making sure it's in accordance with 605.2. Just make sure that that's actually the right number when we get down there. I assume it is.
The only thing I will say for this is, certainly experimental projects or research projects, we have parent permission. Pilots, I don't know exactly what this is, considering what a pilot is. We certainly do a lot of pilots in the district where we might try out, like last year, we tried out 2 different language arts curriculum, and then we just got feedback from teachers to decide which one we would want to adopt. So at those points, we don't typically think about getting any kind of parent approval for that.
I was thinking along the lines of like at Castle or Avid, the kids have to like apply for it, or I don't remember how that goes. I assume somewhere along the lines of parents or guardian is signing something for that, but maybe not for just an individual class, maybe.
Yeah. CASEL is an application process that's approved by the school after, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might be fine because it does say pilots on the second line there are reviewed by the superintendent, and it's only research or experimental projects that has to have parents' written consent. So it's probably okay the way it's written now that I read it a little more carefully.
Yeah, I thought that was specific to the research piece too,
Okay.
there, Diane. Yep.
603.1, basic instruction program.
I like the traffic safety called out in grades 1 through 6.
And that's in the legislation. It's got to be in there.
That's funny. I like it. Do the, I guess in the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th paragraph that's talking about the grades 9 through 12, it talks about basic instruction, and then it has English language arts 6 units. Is that, those aren't the graduation requirements, are they? Or is those,
Nope, those are,
that's
they're
just
called
how many
off-
things?
they're called offer and teach. So to be a accredited high school, you have to offer at least
Okay.
6 years, so a unit's a year, at least 6 years worth of language arts opportunities for kids so they can select which 4 they want to take, or some might double up and take 5 or 6, but you have to offer at least 6.
That's what I thought that was, but then I was like, maybe I'm reading it wrong. Okay, thank you.
So Matt, here it says the instructional approach will be gender, fair, and multicultural, but the previous one was about the materials. Maybe that same language just needs to be in the materials part.
Yeah, I do think it'd be good to have some intentionality in there, you know, to keep speaking to that, because I think it roots it in that policy foundation, that as we look at those things, that it's intentionally incorporated. I know we're doing some things in practice to do that, but I still think that having it there wouldn't be a bad idea. So, I mean, we could go
Maybe
back.
at the very beginning of the curriculum development, which is kind of the beginning of all of the curriculum materials part.
Yeah, I think somewhere in the curriculum materials, or what was the other one called? If I get back up here, evaluation, you know, any of those pieces, if we had it a line we either put in or put in one of them to do that, I just think that would, again, root it in some commitment to that, that it's
coming up
some kind of a
explicitly
lens.
in 603.4. So maybe we just, sorry,
Which one is the name?
it's coming up explicitly in a couple pages in 603.4. And so maybe we just give a nod to that policy too each time, or we could even lift exactly what it says there. It's coming up in the next couple pages, 603.4.
So we're good with that?
Yes.
603.2, summer school instruction.
It's good to me. I mean, it basically gives us the opportunity to have summer school, but doesn't really dictate it. And then there's the special ed component as well for the extended school year.
All right. 603.3.
It's fine to me.
Okay.
Do we? The last paragraph there, like that's new to me. Where it talks about very young children.
Yeah.
We offer those services from birth to age 2, typically through the AEA. So if children are identified, then they're offered in-home services for those students.
Like I said, it's just new to me. That's cool.
Yep. Once they turn 3, then they can be eligible to be part of our preschool program.
603.4, multicultural gender fair education.
So I guess I don't know if I'm explaining what I'm thinking very well, but this one, I think it mentions the without discrimination, but I guess I was looking for how do we state something with a higher bar, like a special attention to equity. So like even the work right now that I think we'll talk to you about a little bit next Tuesday around some of what we're doing with 8th and 9th grade American studies and some special attention to how we deal with equity in our curriculum, you know, and I don't know, like I'm saying, if that's making sense, but a special focus, you know, on some of those areas that haven't typically been taught. I think this provides for, you know, maybe what we're saying, a curriculum that doesn't produce discrimination in it, but I don't know if that, is that making sense to anybody, or is it just
No, I think you're right.
Matt on a different tangent
Paragraph.
tonight? Yeah.
The second paragraph's a little bit more what you're talking about though, Matt, don't you think?
I mean, but I think it's rooted in just equal opportunity, or that it's without discrimination in regards to those groups. I think what I was trying to say was, you know, if you were going to review the social studies curriculum and implement it, you know, just like we talked about today, is there some kind of special focus on the Black experience in those courses? You know, this, it says, well, it should, you know, this is more like what I think we ran into at Teaching Tolerance last year, and some of the problems we had with the curriculum we adopted that we found out probably was guilty of some discrimination, and that we needed to try to rethink how we taught slavery in that unit. But that's what this policy in my mind should protect it from. The other ones about how we choose or implement a curriculum having some other layer of focus. But
No,
if
I
there's
think
not
you're right,
momentum
Matt.
for it, fine. I just thought it might be a good time to, if we're looking at that, to have an equity lens built into the policy.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to try and wordsmith something, Matt, but the 602s, the 0.1, 2, and 3, as I recall, I'm not looking at it right now, but that's all about the curriculum itself, and this is sort of the teaching part of the curriculum. So I think it belongs to 602.1, however we want to word it, but I think that's the place because that starts off all of the then curriculum pieces. So if it's a whole paragraph or even just a sentence, I'd be glad to have it in there, but in my opinion, that's
Yeah, I'll
where it
work
belongs.
on
Right at the
something
top of
with that, yep.
602.1, I think is where it belongs.
And I do like what Amy said about linking it to this too consistently, right? That it should do this and make sure it's also connected with this 603.4 in mind. So we'll get something put together on that.
Matt, if you're going to wordsmith that, then maybe can we think it talks about women, but maybe add something about non-binary in there just to be totally inclusive.
Yeah, good thought.
The one thing you're making me think about in this discussion is rubrics that we may have designed or that sit out there naturally for us to use as we're undergoing curriculum adoption. Just maybe making a nod to that, making sure that there's that equity lens through it, and determining how specific we want to be. But there's an avenue for that as well.
We do have an equity lens as part of our curriculum review rubric.
Right, it's already in there, so that's why I'm saying, why don't we just speak to it, you know, in that component, and then like Lisa said, make sure we speak that it's inclusive as possible. So
Yeah, this policy itself needs to be changed for Lisa's last statement there, or the last sentence needs to be changed too.
yeah, that needs to be included.
Yep.
So 3.5, health education. Anything there?
The one question I had was, I know kids can, well, parents can opt out their children from studying like health and human growth and stuff. Does that request include a proposed alternate activity? Is that what we ask parents to do? That part kind of stuck out.
Diane, you might know the specifics better on this than me, but I was thinking about like when I was a junior high principal, personal development. So if there was a part of that course, the students might have been enrolled in that course, but there might have been a part of it they opted out of, and there would have been an alternative for them to participate on during that time. So that would apply in that scenario. I'm not sure if it applies in every scenario where we'd run into health education across the system, but I know in that specific junior high example, there would be an alternative there.
Is the onus on the parent to supply that alternative thing? Because that's the way the policy here is written, right? Or is it on us to find something for them to do?
At the high school, there's no alternate activity for our health that I'm aware of. They've just opted out and we've waived it.
Yeah, so at the high school, they opt out of the entire course, you know, and that's probably part of it. I think that's part of a different waiver, and that can be for religious reasons. I think this one is talking about just opting out of, you know, maybe a week-long unit on, you know, reproduction. And I'm not quite sure how that's handled. Typically, you know, the kids are probably sent to the library and, you know, given something to work on. So I don't know, Sean, if.
Yeah, I think you're right though, Sean, that, yeah, we're not putting that on the parents to come up with an alternate and then saying if that satisfies it or not. If there's an alternate provided, it's by us, so.
Can we just strike that next to the last sentence?
Probably the last two.
Yeah, probably the last two
the
sentences.
last two sentences.
Yeah.
We're all good with that?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Oh, there's
then
the form.
the excuse form.
I don't know, Amy, you always like to have forms, but I'm not sure that we use anything like this.
Oh.
I'm not sure this makes sense to have in there, but
We not use this?
no, I mean, I know we have a process for handling if they want to be excused, but it's probably less formal than an actual form that's in policy. So if
We
we want to do
typically
this,
just-
we would just need to change to do that. Sorry, Diane.
No, that's okay. We just typically send a letter home to parents and say, this is the unit we're going to be covering. If you have any, you know, concerns, please contact your child's teacher or principal, and they just talk them through it.
Okay, so no need for the form. Everybody good with that? All right. 603.6, physical education.
So for this one, you know, I can double check, but that second bullet, and it confuses me that it's listed in there. My understanding was that was only open to 12th grade students.
Yeah, I don't think that's accurate either.
So if they are taking a full schedule, 9 through 12, any kid can be waived from PE, but only seniors, I believe, are allowed to be waived if they're in an athletic program.
Yeah, and that's not even what it says in bullet 1, Diane. It just says if it's not otherwise available. So you
Yeah.
said a full schedule, and that's the way we've always done it in practice.
Because PE is pretty much always available, right?
Correct.
So unless you had a full schedule, there'd be a PE you could jump into.
Correct.
So we should say grades 9 through 12 may be excused if the student is enrolled in a full academic schedule,
Yes.
and then take the second bullet point and maybe add it to the paragraph below, which is all about 12th grade.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And let's double check. You're absolutely certain only 12th graders get the waiver for athletic program, right?
Well, I was before I read this.
Yeah, I don't know why it's in their primer because that's what we've been told before. So I guess we can look at that and make sure it reflects the
Yeah.
code accurately. But
Yep.
And then Diane, what also about, let's say you do dance for X number of hours a week, there's a way that a kid can document that stuff and get credit for PE, right?
I don't know about getting credit for PE.
Okay.
They
You
can
just
use
use when
that
they
as
were-
far as the Wellness Act, right? The Wellness Act that requires
Yep.
us to have so many hours. But
Yep.
I don't know that they can do that to get credit for PE.
Could they get waived from PE?
I don't think so.
I
I think
don't-
Diane's right that when that Wellness Act came out, there was all kinds of accountability around it. And then that's really gotten loose
Yep.
around kids' physical activity in that Wellness Act. So I think that's a common misconception people have because we'll get that request different times too, Scott, that, oh, my kid's in this, can't that count? And I don't think
Okay.
it technically can for the PE requirements. It's to meet that, I wanted to say healthy kids, but I don't think that's right. It's something with the Wellness Act, like Diane said, about whatever that phrase is.
Okay.
Which also then makes me think we should be specific and not just say in an athletic program, like it should be a school-sponsored athletic program, right?
Oh, very true.
Yep. Looks like we need to work on this one.
Okay.
Then do you want to consider marching band? We'll let that go.
Yeah.
Forget I said that.
My son was really keeping an eye on the bill at the state this year about show choir being an exemption for PE, but it stalled out. He was very sad.
Oh.
In Cedar Rapids, Diane, we called that rhythmic movement. And so they did get PE credit for marching band rhythmic movement. But it had to be during the curricular day. So show choir, Sean wouldn't have got it because that was extracurricular.
Darn it.
If I just sort of dance in my chair to music in my head, is that rhythmic movement?
Sounds like it to me.
All right.
Sorry, I derailed us as usual.
Yeah, 6037, career education.
That one's a very general,
Yep.
broad statement. I don't think there's anything wrong there.
I think it's fine. Anybody else?
603.8, teaching about religion. Sorry.
I would assume some of this stuff is kind of code-based, would it not be?
I think it is, yeah. It's, well, listed, the legal reference, it is Iowa code as well as the Constitution.
Looks good to me.
Code 603-8R1, teaching about religion, regulation, religious holiday. And again,
Looks good to me.
Okay. Everybody else good? I think that is yes. 603.9, academic freedom.
That's a tough one
Yep.
in the end. I mean, not that we shouldn't do it, but I wonder about the middle part. I mean, I've anecdotally heard, some teachers not exactly doing things in a partisan manner as they're teaching things, but I don't know how you ensure that it happens this way.
Could we add wordsmith that? I mean, my concern is the part that allows teachers to express personal opinions, and there's a wide discrepancy on what is a personal opinion. And some people think that like homophobic language or racist is couched under personal opinion, religious liberty. So I don't know if we need to add something in there that says, however, in no case may a teacher express an opinion that discriminates against someone because of the basis of race, religion, gender, the whole spiel. And that kind of goes down the line a little bit.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
We can just add that at the end of second paragraph. Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
603.9 R1, teaching controversial issues.
This is just me. Can we just remove the quotation marks around controversial issue?
It doesn't, but yeah, I'm fine with it. I don't know why it's there.
Lisa's statement would probably be good to go ahead and put in that fifth paragraph again too, right? When it mentions personal opinions.
Yeah.
Could
Good
work
call.
that in.
Besides those two changes, anything else in this one? All right. 603.10, global education.
Is there more later? Not really.
Nope,
That seems very,
that's it.
I don't know, nothing to me. Like, it doesn't say a lot to me, I guess, as a policy. There's not a lot of teeth there. Global education is incorporated into the education program. I don't even know what that means. From that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It goes on to say so they can get a different perspective on like world issues, problems, prospects. Are you just saying you don't know like exactly what that would look like, or?
Yeah, I guess, a little more direct. How is that, incorporated in our education program? Like I don't know, maybe we don't want to, paint it into a corner that way either, but it seems like, oh, we need to throw this little global education policy in there. And it's a sentence that, I don't know. It seems like it's there because it has to be, as opposed to being real meaningful, I guess. That's the way I read it. But
I
As
think
fluid as our Iowa core curriculum is, you know, when you think about our curriculum adoption process and being on a cycle for change, the Department of Ed has essentially done the same thing with the Iowa core curriculum. And so you see your major content areas there, and then outside of those major content areas have the 21st century skills. And so I see some of that global education piece residing there, as well as back in social studies. And that's, I'm speaking specifically to the elementary, but part of me, as we're working through and you see the various kind of one-off mentions of different pieces, it's almost like we just need a reference to Iowa core, because this is going to change as rapidly as Iowa core might be changing.
it's very similar to 6037. So code has a couple things like career education and global education, multicultural gender fair education that are supposed to be infused throughout the curriculum. So we don't have to have a separate course just for global ed, but it can be part of the curriculum that we teach. So I think it's there, like you said, Sean, because it has to be.
it's the reminder that we are doing
Probably.
it within our curriculum.
Yeah.
Like, which, I mean, that's fair, right? I guess I'm not articulating very well why it seems just like kind of a throwaway policy. And if we're going to
Fair
have
to say we're
policy,
doing it, right?
they don't feel like they should be throwaway policies if we're adopting them as policies. But I understand it. We can move on. The next one's kind of the same thing too.
Yep. Citizenship, 603-.11.
Do we have to have this
Um,
in this language?
I think I don't know about the language, but it has to be within here. It relates to Iowa code. So,
It just seems so alienating to any of our undocumented students who aren't citizens. And so I wonder, I mean, if we could just frame it as citizens of the school district community, which would encompass everyone who is attending our schools. I mean, I get the point of it, and it's important, and yes, we should be teaching everyone how to be good citizens, but the language is so almost triggering.
yeah, I mean, no doubt, but I don't know what's actually outlined in Iowa code. What specifically does it say that our policy has to reflect? So I don't know if it talks about being a citizen. Does anybody know what that code actually reference?
I don't, but I can
First
try to pull it up.
reference is actually to the educational standards.
Okay.
256.11 is educational standards. I haven't had a chance to read through them, but that's the first reference.
Yeah, without looking through it all, my guess would be that it specifically mentions citizenship in those standards, you know, teaching around that. I understand what Lisa's point is, right? When it specifies at the beginning, United States and Iowa, how that goes. I guess if you want us to, we could take a look at seeing how broad those standards are and if we can create some more a little bit looser language in the policy to be more inclusive instead of specific to that. I think that's is that what's catching it a little bit, Lisa, is the specificity around the United States and Iowa? Yeah.
I mean, I think if we could just say being a citizen of our community and leave it more open-ended and vague, then it's a lot less, because I would like to think that anybody who's living in the Iowa City area and attending our school, regardless of legal status, is a citizen of our community.
Yeah, that's where I'd have to look at the code, right? It depends on where the "and" in that sentence is referring to, right? Do you have to be a citizen of the United States and be a member of our school district community to then receive the special privileges? Or is it these citizens and these citizens also get special privileges? And if it's that way, then you're absolutely right. We can just call it the one, right? But
Yeah.
like I said, if a code means something else.
So I think, yeah, if you could look at the code and let us know if there's any way we could play with that language, that would be great. Anything else with that? Okay. 604.1, private instruction.
This also looks very prescriptive from code as well. I would ask the very last thing, I mean, it's the same sentence that's in a lot of policies where it says, you know, the superintendent or designee has to develop administrative regulations regarding this policy. What regulations regarding private instructions would we be coming up with that's not already outlined by like state code?
I think
Does
just
this match? Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I was just gonna say just probably the process and procedure around accessing it would be my guess there, Sean, is a general answer to your question.
Does it match Iowa code still? I don't know, but that third paragraph is really specific. 3 options for delivery of this form and 2 options of delivery. I mean, is that needed?
I think that part is for sure accurate. What was stumping me is whether that, where it starts to go into the independent private instruction, that big long paragraph, whether that was accurate. But those 3 different types are definitely in play right now, particularly with what happened in the legislative session a couple years ago.
Interesting, the new Senate file that talks about online education also says that currently if our students are part of our homeschool assistance program, they have access to our, you know, texts and materials that other kids have. The new legislation says all students, whether they're in part of our homeschool assistance program, actually it says all districts have to offer a homeschool assistance program, and that all kids on CPI have to have access to our student texts and materials to the same extent that any other kid has. Not that we have to add that in here, just a little information.
Looks like we lost Ruthina again. All right, well, like I said, that one looks a lot like code to me, so I'd be a little leery to try and fiddle around with it unless somebody knows better than I do. You good with moving on to the next one, or are you guys still digesting that one a little bit? I think we're moving on. All right.
Moving on.
6042, individualized instruction. This seems sort of outside. I guess I'm not seeing what this means or what individualized instruction actually means. In my head, I'm picturing a tutor, but that's not, I don't think that's what that's saying, is it? Or
Could it mean in the cases where we might have a student who's homebound and might need homebound instruction, or could it also mean a case if we had a student who we had under a long-term suspension that we might want to provide individual instruction for that student? I'm wondering, I don't know for sure.
That's what my head jumped to, Diane, is if we had a situation where we needed to do something in the home for whatever reason, discipline or otherwise, that would cover that.
I also could think, I mean, what jumped in my head is you could have a student who's super accelerated in a subject area,
Yep.
like quadruple accelerated in math, and be done with the district offering in math at sophomore year and say, I want you to bring in a special math course of instruction for me. And then it would have to be, that would fluctuate. Whether or not we would do it is a different thing, but I could see that accelerated students.
It also could just be a protection for the district. This kind of overall statement of, hey, everybody gets the standard curriculum, and only in exceptional circumstances do we provide something different, right? I think those are all good examples of when we would do it, but it just helps to protect us from every single parent deciding their child should get something different.
I feel like I'm the color commentator tonight, but Lisa, we actually have a 5th grader who has exhausted all of our math curriculum in the district, and he's taken courses at the university under our dime. Yeah.
That's amazing, by the way. He should cure cancer or COVID.
First things first. All right, so are we good with that policy? I mean, it's pretty generic. I think Chase is right. Kind of just gives you the out of, if you need to do it, you can do it, right? Let's kick it on down. Oh, see, we're right on to talented and gifted. See, it was a nice segue. It's a very short little policy, 6043. Any issues with that one? All right. I'm gonna minimize this little screen.
Are we calling it talented and gifted anymore? Are we calling it extended learning programming or
Yeah,
something?
ELP. Yep.
Do we actually call it what the, do we want to change that language then in here? In that second paragraph? To just say to
don't think you
develop an
have-
extended learning program, or does it matter what we call it in the end?
I don't think you have
I think
to.
in the,
Change the
see in the
policy.
Department of Ed language, talented, gifted. Yeah.
All right. We're all good with that. 6044, program for at-risk students. Again, it's a lot of these, I guess, are kind of going towards what I was saying earlier, where they're just very basic statements like, yeah, remember your program needs to include this thing and this thing and this thing, and there's not a lot of depth to any of them. And I'm trying to figure out if there's like a need for more depth here, or if it ends up somewhere else, right? Any problem with 6044 from anyone? Like I said, it's pretty generic.
No.
Oops. All right, moving on down. 6045. Religious-based exclusion from a school program. So this is like opting out of things? So it mentioned on the one a while back where it talked about opting out of like health and picking an alternative activity. I think the language in that, besides striking the part about the parents recommending it, it said the student may need to have an alternate activity. This one specifically says they're required to do an alternate activity. Do we want to leave it as the required? Or make it optional?
May be required.
Yeah, I like that, Diane. I think that makes the most sense. Then it helps determine the circumstance. You know, not always. I don't think we always want to say we're requiring an alternative.
Do you see where that is, Kim? It's the last sentence of that first paragraph. Thank you. Anything else in that one, guys? Isn't reviewing policy fun? Look at all you smiling faces. There they are. Ah, suckers. All right.
Well, we only got like 40 more pages, right? 50
Yeah,
more?
I'm kind of looking at the time. I don't remember. I know we started a half
60
hour
more.
later than we normally do. Are we going till 6 or just till 5:30? Because I know the
Probably
meeting was just till 5.
I'm sorry, just to 5:30 because I gotta hop on a work call at 5:45. So sorry.
So we'll do this one last one maybe, and then we'll work on our next meeting time if we don't already have one. Let's look at 6046. We'll do this one last one. This is when we send our kids to Kirkwood or the university or something like that.
Diane knows this one inside and out too. Put you on the spot there, Diane. More than color commentary on this one. How about that?
Is the $250 number correct? I think it is because I think I see that in the bills over and over and over at $250.
Yep, and that's PSEO, and PSEO only applies to the University of Iowa, so it does not apply to the Kirkwood Community College
Yeah, that's
courses.
a separate thing. And then they are required to reimburse if they fail the course.
Again, only PSEO at the University of Iowa. They do not reimburse us if they fail a Kirkwood course. I think the policy looks accurate to me.
Those are the only questions I had on that one. So I think we can be done for today. I know Paul will be disappointed we didn't get the whole 600 series done, but you know, that's what he gets for ditching us. So do we have our next one's gotten shown? I mean, we do have an extra 5th Tuesday in June.
We do?
I think, yeah, the 30th is.
Oh, we do.
I don't know if we want to plan that or if we want to send out a poll for some future dates. And Ruthie, you're the chair. You take over.
I don't know if people know their calendar right now, so we can maybe plan the 30th. That's Steve's last official day.
I think he's taking vacation that day, so he
Yeah.
won't be around anyway.
Okay. So I don't know the people here in the room with the 30th work, and we
have, that's when return to learn is due to the state. So I don't know what our day is going to look like that day. I
we
don't
will
know.
get a doodle poll out for future days.
Okay.
That's all you have to say. No problem. All right.
So guys, just to track this, this is the last series we're going through. And then I know I heard Paul communicate in the last one, there wanted to be an opportunity for board members to read through it. I think we should probably talk about what that expectation will be about how closely you want all of them going, through all of those policies and what kind of time frame we'll need to give the rest of the board to do that before some adoption. But that should probably be a point of conversation as we get close to the end of these two. And then I know we have some things due back to you as well that will probably need a little bit of space to get done. So, yeah.
Right. I think as this group, right, we'll get through these 600s, but I think the plan was to start back over 100 and go 1 through 9 and just make sure we hit all the points that we kicked off to take another look at and make sure we get that all done before it then goes to the rest of the board. I think that has
run
to
back through all those
first.
revisions.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then once we run back those revisions and we're comfortable with it, we can talk about that plan of how much time give the full board before we start adopting them, because the plan is that we adopt them all at once. So since it is a lot of reading, we will have to provide enough time for them to get through it all.
Yep. Perfect. Okay.
So it took us about 2 years to get to this point. So should be about how much time they'll need to read it.
No, I think they'll get through it much faster. They don't have 9 to 12 different calendars to work with, so I'm not too concerned about that. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All right, see you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Tuesday. Bye.
See you guys.